Welcome to this overview where we're going to be looking at debtors management tools every SME needs. Debtors management is a strategic advisory opportunity. I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director and founder of ESS BIZTOOls. Welcome to this briefing. The debtors management component of ESS BIZTOOls is a very important package because it's also the key package within the starter package. Because experience over the years has proven that people starting out in business invariably make mistakes when it comes to handling debtors, and that can cause them significant pain. So we'll have a look at some of the other components of the starter package as we proceed through this presentation. But debtors management also presents a strategic advisory opportunity to accountants and bookkeepers who accept the challenge of being a key advisor to your SME clients. Not just the preparation of a tax return. Let me ask you something very seriously. How much benefit do you think your client derives from the annual set of accounts and the tax return that you prepare for them in the operation of their business? Does it give them any key performance indicators? Does it compare this year's gross profit percentage to the previous year's, even though we're now going back nearly 2 years in history? And is that information going to help your client run their business in July 2026? I don't think so. That information's too old. It's good for historical purposes, but what your clients need is advice on everything going forward. It's the future. It's what's going to happen today, this afternoon, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. That's important for your clients to grasp and develop strategies to steer their way through the tremendous challenges that all businesses are facing. And debtors management is one of those key components. I always say to SMEs, if you don't have to give credit, don't give it. But invariably, a whole range of SMEs get caught up in having to give credit and then having to administer debtors. So the debtors problems can quickly lead to severe fiscal management issues. And that can happen very quick because debtors can blow out very quick. If your clients have not got an appreciation of the need to be emphasising the due date for payment on tax invoices and do not follow up with prompt follow-ups, but preferably instigate a telephone call or an email 3 or 4 days before the due date for payment of a tax invoice to remind customers that a due date for payment of a tax invoice is fast approaching. The Small Business Ombudsman has reported that thousands of SMEs around Australia are in financial difficulties. The Ombudsman has indicated that over 50% of SMEs are not trading at a profit. And a report that I saw the other day indicated there's now 2.6 million small businesses in Australia. The Ombudsman's information would say that 1.3 million of those businesses are in some difficulties. A significant amount of the problems are definitely caused through lack of understanding of debtors' systems. MYOB's CEO reported in the Financial Review in February 2024 that a significant number of new business operators with MYOB were identified or had identified a number of deficiencies after 6 months in business. It caused them a lot of problems. So let's look at what those problems were. Not understanding that credit terms do not have to be offered to each customer. Apparently, the SME assumed that if someone asked for credit, they were legally obliged to give them credit. Obviously, you're not, and that caused considerable problems, according to the MYOB report, because unfortunately, those businesses probably attracted people who were not that keen to pay their debts on the due dates. Not having a debtors management system. As an accountant or a bookkeeper, it is vital that you communicate with your clients, your new clients, of the need for the implementation of a sound debtors management system. Now, we've developed a sound debtors management system within ESS BIZTOOLS that if you were a subscriber, you would be able to use. You would badge it and implement it for your clients. A lot of the people surveyed by MYOB were not appreciating the need for ongoing monitoring and follow-up of debtors. And I've mentioned that before, but it's worth repeating it. There needs to be a system, and the system goes through the processes. First of all, there's been a welcome to new customer letter, which has set out the business's terms of trade. It's 30 days. It clearly spells out it's 30 days from the tax of the invoice, not when they receive the statement, if they still prepare and distribute statements. It's 30 days from the tax invoice that your client should be trying to get payment. And one of the other big problems that MYOB identified was not having an awareness of the importance of the debtor's days outstanding number. It's a very important number, and it should be determined within 1 day of the end of a month so that the leadership team are aware of it, because that's the motivator for them to get on the telephone or get into their car and go around and pick up payments from their customers, because the debtor's days outstanding is a critical figure when it comes to the financial management of a small business, or any business for that matter. The big end of town's got exactly the same problem when it comes to debtors. So SMEs need a debtors management manual to help them understand this process. There should be procedures for approving a new customer. Make sure that your client is not inheriting a competitor's problem. And this means that credit checks are undertaken on anyone applying for an account with your clients. They don't need new customers that bad that they're going to get people who think that they can pay them 80, 90, 100 days after the tax invoice. There should be a welcome to a new customer letter, which sets out the trading terms that your client has adopted. And very simply, our recommendation is that they highlight in this letter that payments are due within whatever the number of days that the business has established. Let's assume it is 30 days from the tax invoice. Identifies any additional documentation that the customer has requested be supplied with the tax invoice. This is important because this can be a reason for payment not being made by some customers. If the customer has asked for a weighbridge certificate, for argument's sake, on products that have been transported, your client should be making sure that the weighbridge certificate is included, either with the tax invoice, if that's what the customer asked for, or is handed over to them at the time the delivery is made. Whatever's been stipulated by the customer and agreed to by your client needs to be abided by. There's an opportunity for the sales team to introduce themselves and identify activities for customers to the new customer so that they get a dialogue underway. And documentation required for possible registration on the Personal Property Securities Register. This is very important. And whilst it's not the subject of this presentation today, the Personal Property Securities Register is still very important. It can be a great benefit, of course, for many businesses, but if you get it wrong, it can be very costly. And I would suggest that as accountants and bookkeepers, you make sure your clients understand where they fit within the Personal Property Securities Register regime. There needs to be procedures for approving a new customer, not just automatically accept everyone that walks in and asks for credit. Make some inquiries, get them to fill in the application form, check the application form, follow it up. And the welcome to new customer letter needs to set out the terms, trading conditions, the payment arrangements, and anything else. But it's also the opportunity to build up the goodwill with this new customer. Refer them to special promotions that your client might be having in their business. And of course, it's passed on to the sales department so that they can instigate their own follow-up to create that rapport with the new customer. The registration on the Personal Property Securities Register that I mentioned before gives businesses some protection from non-payment of debtors' accounts, but also offers very significant protection against liquidators' claims of a preferential payment, which also needs to be reviewed. So the day-to-day activities relating to debtors: ensure that there is a current list of the customers that require additional documentation with their tax invoices so that they can be following those through to ensure that that's okay. Make sure the courtesy phone calls are made 3 or 4 days before the due date for payment. And details of any customers that have not paid by the due date should be included in the daily report to the leadership team to encourage them to make contact with the customer. So financial management of debtors. The calculation of the debtors' days outstanding is the number one item. Preparation of the list of debtors in arrears. And arrears is that they owe more than what the business's stipulated payment arrangements are. So if they're 30 days, people owing 31 days and over are on the arrears list and need to be followed up by the sales team and leadership team members. So keeping debtors under control is very important, because if they get out of control, it can be very difficult to regain control. And Australia has not got a good reputation when it comes to debtors. A few years ago, we received a very unwelcome recognition, awarded the longest debtors' days outstanding in the world. That was not very nice. I'd much rather win the World Cup than win that award. The Australian government has introduced legislation to encourage businesses with turnovers over $100 million to pay SMEs within 30 days. It was originally introduced by the previous Liberal government, and it's been updated by the current Labor government. It will be very interesting to see the outcomes over the next year or so as to whether it's just a toothless tiger or whether it's got some real teeth. Because apparently it's based on a name and shame for businesses that do not make payment to their SMEs within 30 days. That's businesses with turnovers over $100 million. We'll see if that works. If your clients are having difficulties with debtors, the suggestion is that they contact the Small Business Ombudsman, who can initiate an inquiry. And if it's not sorted out, I'm sure the Ombudsman will advise the appropriate government department that there are problems with a certain company in making payments, because a separate team has been established within the government to monitor what's going on with payments to small businesses. So if your client has a problem, let's give those bureaucrats some work to do, to follow up and see why the big business is not paying the debts on time. So what can you provide to SMEs to help them overcome debtors? It's important that if your client is sending out statements, that the statements are processed promptly within 1 or 2 days at the end of the month, not 21 days after the end of the month. Because a lot of people, if they're receiving statements, will not make any payment until they have received those statements. And that really delays the overall payment of debtors and blows out the debtors' days outstanding figure. Continually remind clients of the necessity for ongoing due diligence in the monitoring of all aspects of debtors management system. That's your role when you're talking to your clients, to ask them what their debtors' days outstanding figure is. If they don't know, have one of your team go and show their team members how to calculate it and make a suggestion to your client that they receive that information at least every month so that they can monitor that figure. So if you want to know more, ESS BIZTOOLS can assist you because we have the packages and the services to guide you through on this process to help you better understand the overall process within the business. You can visit our website to have a look at the material that ESS BIZTOOLS have, or you can book a complimentary 40-minute Zoom meeting where we will take you through how the debtors system works for you to be able to install that with your clients to give them a better overview of the systems that are occurring. I'm now going to show you on our website, which you can now see the key components of the starter package. Now, debtors management's a crucial component of the starter package. What I've got on the website now is all of the products within ESS BIZTOOLS, but we will just move through a few of these so that you can understand. So here we have debtors management, which is the principal package within the system. But it's very important that there's, first of all, training to the team on the delivery of all of these services. So we have a special training package which has got 13 modules in it. So your team could look at this in a number of training sessions, could read it when they're wanting to know more about what's going on. Any new team members should be taken through a briefing on the aspects of delivery of advisory services to SMEs. So we've got introduction to business advisory services, getting organised, offering business advisory services, team training, leadership, review of materials, use of SME needs analysis. I'll bring up the SME needs analysis because this is one of the important areas. Within each of our product packages, when you go onto them, there's a procedure control form which guides you through the process. So you put your name of your firm, other details. There's special papers you can read. So the way they work, you just log onto them. And here's a paper, which this is for internal use. It's in the series starting 570. We specify to our subscribers, we wouldn't send this to your clients because this is giving you some content to use. So business advisory action, we recommend the SME needs analysis is used for having one-on-one meetings with your clients. One of the problems that we as a profession have got is that for well over 40 years, probably at least over 50 years, accountants in Australia have concentrated the delivery of their services to taxation advice and taxation returns. Sure, there's an annual set of accounts prepared because that's necessary to be able to prepare the tax return. But there hasn't been an emphasis on advisory services, even though that was identified 42 years ago as being something that was very much needed. So what happened 42 years ago? The Institute of Chartered Accountants and the Australian Society of Accountants, which is now the CPAs, sought information from universities around Australia and ultimately ended up in negotiating an agreement with the University of New England in Armidale, New South Wales, for the creation of a special team which would deliver training to accountants to deliver business advice to SMEs. 42 years ago, the accounting bodies recognised that there was not enough training, guidance, assistance being given to the day-to-day business operations and the future forecasting to SMEs. And at that stage, it was when accounting machines had arrived and were being used by more and more accounting firms. So the professional bodies obviously assumed that the technology was there that would help accountants supply these services. And here we are 42 years later, still talking about the supply of services to SMEs. But I think the need today is a lot more relevant for SMEs because there's a lot more difficult trading conditions. There's a lot more government red tape or green tape, if you like, involved. And I think they really need assistance. So the SME needs analysis we prepared to give you some dot points, some ideas of things you might sit down and have a discussion with your client. And I'm going to show you our newsletters shortly. But you need to be prompting clients to communicate to them that your accounting firm can supply advisory services to help them run their businesses more effectively, more successfully. And we need to continually remind them of this to get the acceptance that you can help them. So we've got a range of questions which are looking at current business performance, tax planning, future planning, wealth, risk management, successions and estate planning, business improvements, finance. And we can refer to a separate document, which is a BAS form, Business Advisory Services form. Not that other BAS. We had BAS earlier than the tax office because ESS BIZTOOLS started 27 years ago and we had that running. So the discussions you could have with your client. Now, what I suggest you do is you make a phone call to the client and say, you talked to me some time ago about debtors management and you're worried that your debtors figure is getting higher. In fact, we're calculated it now and it's 68 days, and that's pretty high. It's only supposed to be 30. You tell us that's what your terms of trade are. So we can help you go through the processes. How about I come out and have a cup of coffee with you and we'll have a discussion? Now, this is the way I think advisory services are sold. It's the way I did it when I was principal of an accounting firm. You need to identify that you understand the problem and that you can assist your client to fix it. You need to develop this relationship between your client and in the client's face, you should be saying that person is the CEO of that business and you are the internal accountant and you're in communication with them. The boss says, I've got a problem. You say, I can fix that because I understand debtors management. Or I understand cash flow forecasts. Or I understand projected balance sheets and can be the storyteller to tell you what the end result of various forecasting is going to be in 1, 2, 3 years' time. This is the real role for accountants to be playing. How's the business going? Are you happy with your departmental results? Do you need us to do some comparisons with other businesses? In other words, benchmarking, so that they can get a better appreciation. Because the client might be saying, oh, I'm only getting a gross profit percentage of whatever it is, 27%. But I heard someone in the pub the other day saying that one of our competitors is in fact achieving 34%. How could that be? Well, that's where benchmarking comes in. And we have an arrangement with one of our affiliates, Tax Fitness, who have developed a very sound benchmarking program, which is based on the top 20% of industry classifications. And they've got 400 separate industries in their category. And we have a special promotion for Tax Fitness running at present. So please go to our website and go to affiliate packages and you can have a look at it. So that's the purpose of that particular package, to identify areas that need to be looked at to improve your overall results. One of the other items that I want to bring up for you is the Business Plus newsletter, because I referred to that as I was talking, and I probably should have shown you that first. We produce a newsletter each month, and we upload it on the second Friday of a month normally, and I'll download the content. We're up to issue 268, so we've been producing this now for 18 years. And the newsletter includes other supporting articles to give you an indication of some reference material, if you like, so that if you're reading about debtors management, you can read the paper before you start communicating with clients, so you're up to date with the material. So this is the June 2026 Business Plus newsletter. It's got a number of articles in it. Normally it's only 4 to 6, but as this was the last one of this financial year, we've included some additional material primarily to do with development of strategies for 2026-27. So the concept here is we upload it to our website. We send you a message to say it's been uploaded, normally on the second Friday of a month around 12 noon AEST. We suggest that you read the newsletter and identify clients that you think might be interested in particular articles and make a note of their names. Then you badge with your firm name in here and send it out to your clients. It doesn't mention ESS BIZTOOLS at all because we want your client to think that you've written this newsletter. So just be aware of that when you're talking to them. And we're very careful how we write it. We really don't express political opinions or attack anyone in the newsletter. We try to make it neutral because I know that hundreds of accounting firms around Australia are sending it out. And we don't want to cause problems. We haven't had any problems in 18 years. So benchmarking helps identify opportunities for improvement. Because what the newsletter's there to do is to convey to your clients some of the work that you could do. And hopefully they're saying, gee, the light bulb goes off. That's what we need. I really would like to know how that Bill Smith in that building 200 yards down the road can have a flash big house and a flash big car. He's obviously doing better in his business than what we are. Well, benchmarking allows those sort of comparisons. And with the tax fitness benchmarking report, you're going to be comparing to the top 20%, not just the averages, because in the averages you get all the ones down the bottom there, unfortunately. Your clients really need to be getting ready to go to the Olympics, the business Olympics. How do they perform against the top 20%? So benchmarking helps identify opportunities. But each article has a call to action. If you would like to discuss with us a benchmarking analysis for your business, please do not hesitate to contact the accountant in our organisation that you would normally deal with. Now, you can edit this. You could put there with Jimmy Green or Mary Smith, our expert in benchmarking. So you can build them up a bit. And hopefully you do have a champion in benchmarking and all the other key areas within advisory services. Protecting business assets is always important. Now, this is the Personal Property Securities Register. And so there's a bit of a story about it because it's very important that people understand how this works. And again, the call to action. If you would like to discuss the operations of the Personal Property Securities Register, please don't hesitate to contact Jeanette Green, our champion of Personal Property Securities Register. Debtors management, that's what we've been talking about today as the lead article. So the retention of title clauses, the credit approval processes, the reminder call, the debtors' days outstanding calculations, again with the call to action. Navigating difficult business conditions. I hope you're thinking of some clients as we're going through this. Hopefully you've got 2 or 3 names for each of these items because they're the people you should then be contacting 3 to 4 days later and seeing whether they're happy to have a discussion with you. Now, they all won't be ready for a discussion. Some might say, yeah, in a couple of months' time, I'm pretty busy at this stage or whatever. But you're planting the seeds because this is one of the problems that accountancy firms servicing the SME market have got because the emphasis has been far too much on taxation. So here we're looking at navigating difficult business conditions. This is bringing into play monitoring of things like debtors ledgers, looking at the new requirements for the payday superannuation, business planning requirements, budgets and cash flows, all that type of thing. Development of strategies for the next financial year. It's only a week to go, isn't it? So what about business plans? Business plans are like maps for tourists. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to monitor your progress? So there we list a whole list of matters that might be considered in this planning process. The strategic plan, succession planning, corporate governance, budgets and cash flow forecasts, projected balance sheets, charge out rate calculations if they're a tradie business or even a professional service firm like yours. We've got a package which does these calculations very quickly, but it leads to opportunities to have further discussions with your clients and do a lot more extra work. One of our clients started off with 10 tradie clients, has now got 100 of them, and is generating revenue of $1 million a year just out of the tradie clients, because he encouraged them that they should have monthly accounts prepared, and as part of that, the actual productivity percentages for each team member are analysed, and if there's need for changes in charge out rates to be calculated, they then attended to. And we have the anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism legislations that all starts from 1 July also, and it applies to certain classifications in tranche 2, and accountants are included in that. And there's preparation that's needed, discussions with clients. So hopefully that gives you an understanding of the benefit of a newsletter, because over a year we have somewhere between 70 and 90 separate articles that get sent out, and we try to mix them up, because I believe there's at least 8 different classifications of small business. There's people thinking about it but haven't resigned from their job yet. There's people who have signed the contracts and are now looking at it. There's people who have been in business for 6 months. There's people who are buying a business. There's others who are just starting. There's people who are in business for 5 years and are thinking about doing something else. There's all these different categories. We try to, over a year, we write articles, probably 3 or 4 for each of those categories, a few more for some of them. And that should be able to create some discussion points with your clients. And if you've got particular areas of interest with your clients, please let us know. We'll get onto it. So that's the overview, to give you an insight into some of the material contained within the starter package of ESS BIZTOOLS. And I'll just move back out of the Business Plus. Some of the other areas that are in the starter package include budgeting, buying a business, client mentoring and coaching. This is pre-prepared coaching material which we have that you could badge. Some client seminar material, debtors management we've discussed. There's 320 papers we've produced for 60 different classifications that you can badge and send to your clients to back up your professional advice. There's a fee setting for professionals, for accountants, lawyers, architects, engineers, medical practitioners. There's a summary of government grants that really apply to people starting a business. We've got an introduction to research and development. It's very important, could be very applicable to manufacturers, tradies, research type people, that at least you can discuss the issues with them. Selling a business, setting retail prices. So this is where you're going to be looking at the mix between the various types of products and the markups that they can obtain on them. How much do they need to sell of all those to generate the targeted profit? Our system calculates that for you. The debtor systems manual. So the debtors management is going through the processes. This is an actual manual that you would badge with your client's name. You would then undertake training with the person within the client's organisation who looks after debtors. The SMEs analysis I referred to a little bit earlier. And then we have the tradies charge out rate calculator and some discussions on trades. So that's the overview of what's in ESS BIZTOOLS. Debtors is the lead component, of course, and we've got 2 packages, the debtor systems manual and debtors management, but there's a whole range of other activities there that gives you a range of packages that you can then work with your clients to ensure that they get their business off to a great start. So if you would like to have find out more information, and I hope you would, please go to our website, www.essbiztools.com.au, or you can book a complimentary meeting. Have a great day, and don't forget we have a special promotion on of ESS BizTools at present, available until the 30th of June. Please go to our website, www.essbiztools.com.au. Click on packages and pricing, and you'll be able to see the great deals that you can get in subscribing to ESS BizTools at present. Have a great day. Goodbye. And I look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.